Okay, here we're gonna start the new parak. Cheskas about them on page 28. Thank Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. Because of our learning, we should have basic Mikdash immediately. Learning Lili Nishma, Sabbath, Golda Basper, Yaman, and Masalas have been. Yeah. For Shlema, for Rav and David Ben Sarah, and for Gedali Getzel Eliezer. So you Father here last week. The Mishnah starts Cheskas Abatim, a chazaka for houses. Now, chazaka could mean, in some contexts, it could mean that the way you make a kinyan. So, lechazekukni, when something that will show ownership. Over here, it's not. That's not what we're talking about. Here, we're talking about a assumed ownership based on how long you were living there. So, cheskas abatim va'abayris, or if someone has a type of well, a cistern. Vasichin is another type of cistern. It's more square or something, a rectangle. Va'ma'iris is a cave, another type of well that has a covering on it. Va'shevches, or bird houses. Va'merchatzais, or bath houses, or beis abadim, and olive press. Beis ashlachim is a type of field that's irrigated because there's a spring in it and has its own water. Va'abadim, or slaves. Chol choice appears to other, and anything that gives produce regularly. So cheskas and shalishanim yom liyom. Then in order to show this, not to show the ownership, but to show assumed ownership, that takes 3 years from day to day. That means an entire 3 years to show that you're the actual owner, even though you don't have a document. What's happening here is normally when you buy a field, so you hold on to the document that says your receipt. How long do you have to hold on to the receipt? Well, if the other person agrees that you bought it, everyone's in agreement that you don't have to hold on to it. There's no conflict. But you don't know if he's going to show up and say, no, I contest. It's not really yours. So the amount of time that we're supposed to hold on to it is 3 years.
Nowadays, it's title insurance.
How long are you supposed to hold on to documents in general?
5 years.
Like bank statements and that stuff? So 5 years? So here it's 3 years. And if there was anyone was contesting something or protesting against it, so then he should have come in the first 3 years. Right. How long does a lawyer have to hold on to his documents? He has like files and files of stuff. Okay, so this would be something that would produce for 3 years. So anything that produces over this time, so that would be a chazaka. Stay habal. This is a field that's watered by rain. You don't have to artificially water it. It has its own. It rains on its own. So cheskasa shalishanim ve'inam liyom. That only gives fruits in its actual season, and so therefore, once the fruits have been given, once the produce has been collected, so you only need, basically, it's not really 3 years. It's 3 years of produce. So because after it's given its produce, it's not going to give any more. So you've already taken it to the day. Yeah. So here it's because you only need to get the produce in. Once you get the produce in, then you're done with your three crops, and then it's considered a chazaka. Rabbi Shmuel Eimer Gimel Chadash and Berishena, Gimel Bachrena, V'shneim Asar Chedesh Be'emtza Harei Yidches Chedesh. Harei Elu Yidches Chedesh. 3 months at the beginning. 3 months of the first year, a year in the middle, and then 3 months at the end would be a total of 18 months. 12 months in the middle plus 3 plus 3. Yeah, 15 to 18. that would be good enough for such a type of field. Rabbi Kiva Mechidish B'Rishain V'Chidish Brachan of Yud Beis Chidish B'Emtzarei Yudalet Chidish. Rabbi Kiva says no, you only need 1 month for the first year, 12 months in the middle, and 1 month for the last, which is a total of 14 months. Rabbi Yishmael says, but when do we say that it only needs to be 12 months, or when it needs to be 18 months, according to Rabbi Yishmael? Stay love on. That's if it's a grain field, gives you 1 crop a year, the grain field. So then that would be 18 months. But if it's an orchard, then kind of says tuasai. You can tuasai, interestingly means here grapes. You harvest the grapes. Masaka Zesav, you then harvest the olives. So kind of says Ketsa, then you harvest the figs. You can get 3 crops in an orchard, and it doesn't take 3 years, because the grapes are around Tishrei time, and then the olives are a little bit after that. So the grapes are in the summer, the olives are right after that, and then the figs are right after that. And you can get all 3 crops in 1 year. So it's 3 crops. It's not really 3 years. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Shemati mihal chiyusha. I've heard from those people that traveled to Usha, referring to the Sanhedrin, that was exiled 10 times, and 2 of those times was Usha. They went to Usha, then they went to somewhere else, and they went back to Usha. So I heard from the people that went to Usha, Shayoimre minayin lachazak lecheskas gimel shanim. What's the hey? Minayin chazaka shehi gimel shanim. How do you know that a chazaka is 3 years? Yishara muat. We learn it from the goring ox. How long does it take for an ox to become a muad? 3 times. So if it takes an ox 3 times to become a muad, then a chazaka should take 3 years. The Gemara is going to get maybe 3 days, maybe 3 weeks, 3 months. Like who says 3 years? Like where do you get that from? But let's see. Ma sharamua, just as a sharamua, just like a sharamua, an ox. It goes 3 times, and its status changes from being a tame ox to a goring ox. So a tam is a tame ox. So it changes its status. It leaves the tam, it becomes a muad. How many times does it take? 3 times. So chanami, even the achla tlashne nafak lemich. So too, the 3 years of that someone is taking the produce, it leaves the domain of the seller, and it goes into the domain. It changes its status. It goes in the domain of the purchaser after 3 years. Well, this sounds like, the expression sounds like that it's a type of kinyan, but it's just taking about the chazaka. It's the chazaka. It has now a chazaka of the lekeh. The assumed ownership is now of the purchaser.
We don't learn the concept of chazaka.
We'll see in a minute. But this is one source. Yeah. You have a question, Helen?
Similar, I was going to say, this is source.
Let's see. Imashar more on the Gifur of Yasam Chayev. I can imagine Rav Yisrael Kaim Bishus say. Mar says 1 second. When does what's the difference between a short time and sharmut? If an ox scores and the 1 time, a 2nd time, a 3rd time, it pays only half the price. It doesn't pay the full damage. When it's a sharmut, it pays the full damage. So after it gores 3 times, it doesn't pay the full damage until it gores the 4th time. So where does the status where do you start to see the change in status? That's after the 4th time. So the Gemara says 1 second, a sharmut, until the 4th goring, he's not chayiv to pay the full price, full damages. So that the same thing should be ad shana revius until the 4th year. Like Hambashusi, why you say it takes 3 years? It should take 4 years, because that's when the status changes of when the payment changes. So Sachiyash, the Gemara says 1 second, hold on. Hasam over there, the fact is it becomes a muad after the 3rd goring. The only thing is, the 4th goring, if it doesn't gore yet, there's nothing to pay for it. So really, it's going to it changes its status. It just doesn't have any payment yet. So
the passage of time ownership of land.
What the Gemara is going to end up saying is that the
Because like you harvest 3 times.
the Gemara is going to end up saying that the person that's living in the property is going to tell the original owner, said, if you really had a claim, then where were you the last 3 years? I've been living here. He didn't say anything. I didn't know to watch my documents. So if you had a problem 3 years, during those 3 years, you should have said something. Now, why 3 years? Because we're going to assume that right now we're thinking it's a sharamud. Then we're going to assume that a person won't let someone live in his property for 3 years. Maybe I'll let him stay. You know, sometimes in shul, someone sits in your seat, what you think is your seat. So it's okay. He's a guest. You don't kick him out the first time. Second time, you don't. The third time, you say, by the way, you know, this is. You send someone to say, by the way, this is really someone's seat. So so they think like 3 times it would be, or 3 years would be a considerable amount of time that the owner should have said something. He didn't say anything, so the other person, the purchaser, doesn't know to watch his documents. Yeah, there's a discussion. Achreinim discuss. What's the chazaka? Is it the fact that he didn't protest, or is it the fact that he was in it? Like, what's the main part of that chazaka? So, yeah, from Naftali, you disagree?
I have trouble understanding the reasoning in this sugya. I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said. I know that's the commentary. I just, first place, the reason I have trouble with it is that first, the chazaka on the sharmud is you understand the nature of the thing. The chazaka here is that you're establishing ownership, but the nature of the land is it's still arable land that, you know, you can farm. You're not changing the nature of the farm. So
Right.
it seems to me it's sort of hard for me to believe that this was really the reason, this connection to Sharamud. It just doesn't. And the example the Gemara gives about the first 2 times someone's sitting in your seat, the first 2 years you know, someone's using your land, you don't say anything. That doesn't make any sense at all, because we have kazakas elsewhere that people, for example, go to collect a loan immediately when it's due. You know, you don't let somebody else benefit from your property. People protest. There's a kazaka that people protest the first time.
Right.
So just shaking my head to myself. That's all.
Right. Now, it could be that the reason why it's hard to swallow is because we're not living in like those rural areas where things can happen on your property where you're not always aware of, and then it takes a few days till you notice it. And there's things, it's like a lot of land, and things are moving. You know, it's a tractor here, a car over there. I'm sorry.
The wheels of justice.
Yeah. Anyway.
One thing just to clarify,
Yeah.
is that he has to be aware, the person has to be aware or not that there's somebody in there. So if somebody's just hiding inside somebody's property for 3 years.
So I think that's why he has to actually take the produce.
Mhm.
He has to be
Well,
using the produce.
ultimately, we're going to learn that he has to bring, the person on the property is going to have to bring witnesses. So if he's hiding, he's not going to be able to bring witnesses. Right?
Right.
Won't be
Well,
able
the
to
guy's
prove
going to say, I didn't know that you were in there.
Okay, but he's going to bring witnesses that says, you know, everybody should have known. It was public knowledge that he was in there.
Right.
Yeah, in American law, it's pretty clear that, you know, adverse possession means that he is like making clear that he's there. You know, it's an adverse possession.
The big difference between this and American law, I think, is that here in halakha, you have to have some kind of valid claim to title. Yeah, I bought it, but I lost the document. Whereas squatters' rights or adverse possession, you can just show up. And if you hold it long enough, you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well.
Florida.
7 years in Florida?
Florida, 7 years, yeah.
I've got a few more years on
Hang
that, on this, my seat and shul.
I guess like this. Like if you live in this country for a certain amount of years, you get 5 for citizenship.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's 5 after you have the residence.
Uh-huh. The Gemara now asks, well, before first we were answering, it says, why don't we say that it takes 4 years? So it says, well, it takes 3 years. It's really 3 years, but then if it doesn't do damage, so there's nothing to pay. But in our case, we're talking about someone that's living in someone's house or using their field. But here, we don't have to wait for another damage to pay for that. It's automatic that it's considered a change of status. It's considered it belongs to him. If that's the case, we're learning from a sharamud. Sharamud means that it gores 3 times, changes its status. Now it's a muad. Now it's a goring ox. 1 second. If someone goes into someone's property and stays there 3 years, it's going to change the status. But what's he claiming? Is he claiming that it's his? It seems from sharamud that you don't need to have any claim. You just have to go in there 3 years, and then it becomes yours. Alama Tanan. Why was it taught in a Mishnah later on that kol chazak b'sheni matayna and a chazak, like Rav Naftali you mentioned, that if you don't have a claim why you're in there, then it's not considered a chazaka. The chazaka is just backing up the claim that you gave. For example, someone comes to his friend, he says, what are you doing in my property? So he says, what do you mean? I bought it from you. The guy says, you never bought it from me. So he said, show me the document, the purchase. I said, well, I was here 3 years. You never said anything. I don't have the document anymore. But there's a claim backing it up. It's not just that I don't know, no one said anything. I just saw the door open. I just came in. There's no claim there. Yeah, Taisus discusses like what's the Gemara thinking, how we get it. But anyway, the Gemara says over here that if we're learning from Chazak, if we're learning from Gimel Shana, from Sharamud, then why do you need a claim backing it up? It looks like just the time itself changes status. The Gemara says, what's the reason why we say that it takes 3 years? It's because we think that maybe 3 years together with his claim, he's probably right. Says, of course you need a claim. We're not making claims for him why it's his. We're just saying that if there's 3 years, then maybe his claim is correct. He says, I bought it from you and no one said anything for 3 years, and that would be good enough. Not that it's a chazaka that changes the status without a claim. It's just a way for us to assume that his claim is correct. That's what the Gemara is holding now. Maskav Rav Avdira has a question. Gemara says like this. How does it work with the sharamud? Someone has an ox, Reuven has an ox, and it goes and it gores. So they take the ox and Reuven to Bezdin, and they testify that the ox gored, and Reuven was warned that he has to watch his ox, and that happens 2 more times, it becomes a sharamud. So if by a sharamud, in order to make it into a mud, it has to be directly in front of the owner. The owner has to be warned. So the same thing should apply.
So you can't come to him and say it happened 3 times. You have to
have
testified on each.
Yeah. Well, that's according to we had a machlekes Ludi Tura, Ludi Gavra. If it's Ludi Gavra, then it has to be warned 3 times. If it's Ludi Tura, then you could just get away with that, with saying scored one time. The main thing is it's not just testifying about the ox, it's warning the owner that he should now watch his ox. That's whatever. Let's say that's how it's going.
Ox went forward to different situations before they got back to the owner, kind of just one.
Yeah, it wouldn't be counted.
Yeah.
So the same thing should apply here. When we have an original owner, the original owner would have to protest directly in front of the squatter, the guy that's living in there. Would have to protest in front of him. Now that's assume that he has to do that. The guy has to know that he's going to watch his don't tell him. Let's say the guy's in town. Let's say the original owner went on a trip. He's in Australia. and he hears that someone in Miami is living in his apartment. So what does he do? He has to fly back. So what he's allowed to do, he's allowed to tell witnesses that make a protest, and it's assumed that witnesses will, the rumor will spread that he protests, and the person will hear about it. We actually have the Mishnah later on that says, or statement later on, that says Mecha Shalei B'fanav is considered a Mecha, that he doesn't have to be in front of the actual owner. It just has to be in front of witnesses.
They're relying on Twitter.
And relying on Twitter, right? So so if that's the case, if we're learning from Sharamud has to be directly in front of the owner. And Mecha does not, and when it comes to Chazaka, it doesn't have to be, the protest doesn't have to be in front of the owner. So the Gemara says, it should be in front of the owner. The Gemara says no. Pasam, over there, it says in the Pasuk that it has to be warned in front of the owner. But over here, Chavra is like, his friend has a friend. The Chavra is like, and his friend's friend also has a friend. So here it's just a rumor. You just have to hear that the guy is not, the original owner is not happy with you being in there. You should know that you should watch your document. Okay. Gemara now asks, this opinion of Rameir. Rameir says if an ox scores on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it scores once each day. So it becomes a Sharamud. Rameir says if it becomes a Sharamud when it spreads out Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, for sure it becomes a Sharamud if it scores 3 times in the same day. This is a really violent, right, aggressive ox. So for sure it becomes a Sharamud. So if that's the case, so if you could make a Sharamud in less than 3 days, then maybe a Chazaka could take less than 3 years. Let's say someone eats 3 fruits in the same day. For example, the figs. Apparently the figs you can harvest in the morning, it's ripe, but the rest of the tree is not ripe. And later on in the day, another one will ripen. Throughout the day, it could ripen. So by the end of the day, you've harvested 3 figs, and that should be a chazaka because it's 3 harvests. It's like 3 gorings in the same day, according to Reb Meir, which that works. Levi chazaka. The Gemara says, "Dumya the sharamud." No, you have to compare it to a sharamud. Ma sharamud beidna dislay hanagicha lesala hanagicha. Just by the goring. When it's goring this one, it's not goring that one. Sometimes, right? So hachanami beidna dislay peri lesala peri. Also, it has to be totally 3 independent gorings that happened not at the same time. Otherwise, that's not going to be a muad. It just gores in, a whole group of people. So that's not going to be a muad because there were 3 people there.
Goring massacre.
Not small.
Right. So over here, when it comes to the fruits, we're looking at it like that it's just goring like 3 people there in one shot because they're all there at the same time. Even though it still wasn't ripe, but it was there on the tree. So that's not going to be a good comparison. So the Gemara now says, okay, this is lahiper, less lahiper. Achla klas peri be yoim echad. Again, slaf, levi chazaka. And maybe betlasa yoimi.
Yeah, here in the Gemara says
I have
in the
betlasa
brackets,
yoimi. And in the Seiros of Shas, it says Chad Yaima. Switches it. Yom Echad. Yom Echad I have. Teisvus. Chad Yaima in Slav. Okay. The Slav is a caper bush. Yeah. Yeah. I have I tried planting it. I don't think I got too far. But the bushes that grow out of the kotel, and there's that's a caper bush.
Oh, wow.
Is it edible?
Yeah, it's very edible. The caper bush, the Gemara Brachas makes a big deal about the caper bush. It has different fruits. You could eat the berries, of course. The berries are edible. Eat the flowers. That's the flowers of the capaba, the things that they put on the locks. Those little green things, locks, capers. Yeah, that's the flowers. And then you could also eat the leaves. And the Gemara goes through, and this one you say eitz, this one you say adama, this one you say shakal. So I mean, it has like a whole discussion on the Gemara brachas. Okay, so apparently you can get 3 produces off the slav tree when one is there, the other one isn't there. So we were saying that if we're learning from Sharamua, then according to Reb Meir, where it doesn't need to be 3 days, it could be even in 1 day. So the same thing should apply to getting a chazaka on a property. It should be less than 3 years. It should be in less than that. Gemara says that no, because to get the produce off the fig tree, the other fig is there when you're harvesting the first one. The other one is there. They said, well, what about a tzlaf tree, where the other one isn't there when you're harvesting this one? Rashi learns that it's after 3 days. It takes 3 days. So instead of 1 day, it's 3 days. We've just extended it. That fits better with the flow of the Gemara. The Gemara says, over there, Perami, the fruit is actually there. The Migmar, the Kagamar Vazel is just ripening. So the fruit, at least the bud, is still there, even at the beginning. And so that wouldn't be a chazaka. It has to be mamish independent produces. The Gemara says, what about achla tlas peir betlas and yaimen again espasta lebi chazaka? There was a type of fodder where they would grow it, and then they would cut it down, and then they would let it grow more, and then they would cut it, and then they would let it grow more and cut it. Do it 3 times. No, I don't think so. He brought it in once. What does it say there? How do you translate aspasta?
Fodder for 2/3 stem.
No, it doesn't say alfalfa or something?
Yeah,
Alfalfa, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like alfalfa. Anyway, over here you can get 3 harvests in 30 days. And each one is, of course, not there when the other one, when you're harvesting, because it has to grow. So, right, it's growing back. So maybe you should be able to get a chazaka in just 30 days if we're learning from Sharamud, according to Reb Meir, which says it doesn't need to be 3 separate times, 3 separate days. It could be all in 1 day. We should get the chazaka 3 harvests in 1 month. Gemara says, hey, chidami, how is this working? The kadiach va'achla. Talking about that it grows a little and then you harvest, it grows a little and you harvest. Gemara says, hasam mishametu the kashamet v'achla. Over there, it looks like he's sneaking the crops. How do they translate this? It looks like he's trying to get crops because he's not really an owner. So that wouldn't be a chazaka. Trying to get out of here quick with whatever he can take. Snatching and using. He's snatching and using. That doesn't show ownership. That's the way someone that's not the owner would eat it. We want to show ownership as an owner. So achlat, the Gemara says, continues, achlat tlasa perig betlasa yarchig and aspasta levi chazaka. What about if he takes 3 months? So every month he lets it grow. That should be a chazaka. Why do we say it takes 3 years or 18 months or 14 months? The Gemara says, man halchi yosha. Who is the one that said that we learned from Ashara Muad? We said the people that went to Usha, Sanhedrin. Well, which people is that? It says Rabbi Yishmael. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. The Gemara says, oh, Rabbi Yishmael hachanami. Rabbi Yishmael, you're actually right. According to Rabbi Yishmael, it doesn't need to be 3 complete years. It really could be even less than that because the Tanana was taught in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yishmael, when do we say that it takes 18 months? That's in a crop, when it's a grain crop. But if we're dealing with an orchard, then that 3 harvests of produce, which could even be in 1 year, is already considered a chazaka according to Rabbi Yishmael. So actually, this opinion of Rabbi Yishmael that says that you don't need 3 full years, it could be 3 crops within even 1 year, within a few months. You can also have, according to him, he's learning from the Sharamud, which according to Reb Meir could be even in 1 day, it could become a Sharamud.
whole loan, like to, like for the person. to
You
say,
think there's a mortgage here?
No, like in the case of the loan, I don't remember like the time frame specific.
What do you mean a loan?
Like when this person paid back the loan, and then like a year later, the person says, "Oh, you never paid me back." There wasn't a time frame in there.
Oh, I think we thought we said kind of a chazaka person will pay back the loan.
Yeah, it's assumed because if not, he would have complained earlier. But what is like the reasonable time like for him to complain that he was paid? 'Cause to me,
I don't know. I don't think the loan could come into this. Here we're not talking about a loan. Here we're talking about someone that uses someone else's property, right? We're talking about specifically land, realty.
in this case and in the case of the Hawks, I think it's like to give enough time for the owner to make the correction.
Okay.
So like here, like give the owner enough time to make a claim against this person that is like, taking over his property.
Okay.
Over there so that he can make a correction.
Okay.
There's no
Okay, that makes
examples of
sense.
time frames.
Hill's putting it that the comparison here between a sharamuad and a chazaka is that it's to give enough time for the owner to make the correction. So the owner making the correction is either to watch his ox, or the owner making the correction is to protest against the person that's in his property.
The shorter. Could do a on one day, like if people would take other people's properties. No
Right.
problem.
Okay, so now the question is that if that's the case, the Rabbanan Mai, this was only the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael's opinion is that the chazaka doesn't need to take 3 years, be less. It's just 3 harvests. But what about the Rabbanan that say that it actually needs to be 3 years? Where do they know that it's a chazaka, that the concept of chazaka works? Rav Yosef says, or that it's 3 years. Kraksiv, we have a pasuk. Pasuk in Yirmiyah says, "Sadis b'kasef yiknu b'kasev b'sefer v'chasoim." Says that you buy fields with money. You should write a document in a scroll, and you should sign it. And the pasuk finishes off that you should put it in a clay. Put it in a clay vessel so that it lasts for many days. Now, the reason why they have to hold on to the document for many days is because this story was taking place in the 10th year of Tzidkiyahu, who was the last king of Israel, of Jerusalem, and there was only one more year or 2 more years. It was in the second to the last year, and so he's telling him that you should buy fields, but you have to hold on to the document because you're not going to be able to make a chazaka for 3 years. You'll only get 2 years out of it because we're going to be exiled. This is Yirmiyahu. We're going to be exiled, and you won't get a full 3 years in. So a Navi Yomid Be'eser. Prophet is standing in the 10th year, and he's warning about the 11th year that we're going to end up being exiled. So how are you going to have a chazaka? If you lose the document, you won't be able to have a chazaka because you're not going to be in the land. The people are going exiled to Babylonia. So Amalei Abaya says, Dilma Hasam Eitzateva Kamashma. See what just happened here is Rabbi Yosef, who's the teacher of Abaya, is saying that I learned the concept of chazaka from a place where we didn't have chazaka. And so there, the prophet said that you have to hold on to your document. But if it would have been 1 more year, then you wouldn't have had to hold on to your document. Abaya says, maybe he was just telling you that it's good advice to hold on to your document, whether there's a chazaka or not. How do you know that that's teaching me the concept of chazaka? It says, because if you're going to take the whole book of Yirmiyahu and you're going to say that it's actually just each verse is telling me halachas, what does he mean to say when the people were going into exile 11 years earlier, with the first exile? What was it? That was Yechaniah. When they went to exile with Yechanya, so then you see there were two exiles to Babylonia. It was 11 years apart. Yeah. That was the first exile. So they went, and the first exile was 11 years earlier. And he said over there, he told them like how to behave in exile. He said, don't just think, don't live out of your suitcase. When you go to exile, you should buy houses and you should build it up, make believe as if you're living there. And that's the explanation probably for us in exile as well. That why do we buy shuls and build yeshivas and all of this is because the prophet told us how to live for the 70 years. That's the way we live over here. People are saying, why are you making a fundraiser for the mikveh? Mashiach's coming. What's the big? It's not the way exile works. The prophet already told us we're only there 70 years, and we had to, unpack your clothing and put the things in the drawers, build houses. So, but what's he saying? He's saying a halacha? No, he's Eitz Teva Kamash. He's telling you how to live. So also here he's just telling you a good advice. It's good advice to hold on to your documents and not to throw them away. But it doesn't mean that a chazaka is 3 years or 2 years. Maybe a chazaka is only 2 years, and they have a chazaka. But it's still good advice to hold on to the document. Don't just throw it to the shred your papers. You may need it. Teda, I'll bring you a proof. It actually tells them that he should put them where they should store it. So of course he's telling them advice, telling them how to store the documents. That's not a halacha. He's telling them that if you want documents to last a long time, put them in clay pots. They can last as long as the Dead Sea Scrolls lasted. 3,000 years, 3,000, over 2,000 years, right? Elamarav.
This pasuk. This comes before the first pasuk that they quoted.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This one over here is Mendalad. Here it's Yudalad. So big difference.
I wonder if that's a mistake. I thought they were very close together.
That's what we were speaking. That's why I kept them looking. Here it's showing you the pasuk. It's Yudalad. Here it's Mendalad.
Check if that's. Not Yirmiyah Chavtes. Yirmiyah Chavtes is something else.
No, not that one.
We're talking about in chapter 32. Where 32. Are the verses?
14.
And where's the other one?
The one before the page before. Oh, you just had it. Yeah, it's 44. Yours is 44. Interesting.
Okay, Elamarav, it was the Haftarah not too long ago.
Yeah, but it's not in the same relationship.
It's the same chapter.
Same chapter.
Elamarav, rather, Rava says a new pshat in Chazaka. Because Abaya had a question. 32. Which verse?
First one was 32:44, and the second one is
32:14. Okay. Yeah. So rather, Rava says Shata Kamaisa Machalinish. The first year that someone is living, there's a squatter in his property, the person says, okay, let him have it. It's Michael. Lets him eat the produce. Tarti, the second year, Machal, he says, okay, fine. Class, but the third year, Loi Machal. Rav is telling us psychology that a person will forgive the first 2 years when someone's in the property. The third year, he won't forgive. And that's how Chazaka works. Amalei Abaya has a question on this. One second. There's a rule. Alama Amar Rav Nachman. Why does Rav Nachman say Hadra Arav Hadra Peri? If after he's there 3 years, the person ends up proving that the land is actually his, not the squatter, but the original owner says that it's his. Reuben's in the property. Shimon was the original owner. Shimon comes through and says, "You've been here, I don't know how long, but get out of my property." So Reuben says, "No, I was here 3 years." So he says, "Well, tough luck. Here's the document that says your document, and he proved it that it's his." So when he gets the property back, he has to, when Reuben gives the property back to Shimon, he has to pay all the produce that he had eaten during that time. So if, according to Rava says that a person is Michael the first year, by first, second year, it's only the third year that he's not Michael. So why should he pay for what the guy had given him? So consider it like a gift. Rava, rather Rava adjusts what he said, and he says it's slightly different. Not that he's Michael, he just won't protest. Tarti, second year like Kapit, he won't protest. Halas Kapit, now he's going to protest. At this point, at this point in the Masechta, Rashi passed away. So it's the commentaries now switches from Rashi to the Rashbam, which is Rashi's grandson, Shmuel ben Meir, which is Meir is Rashi's son-in-law, married one of Rashi's daughters, and the Rashbam writes much more elaborate than Rashi. It just so the pages start to get smaller because the commentary the Rashbam is much longer. Yeah.
He gave up.
So he was saying it was not that he gave up.
He doesn't mind that he's there, but in the property, but it doesn't mean that he allows them to take the produce. First we're saying that he's actually moichel on all the produce. He forgives the produce. Now we're saying that it's okay that he's in the field, but the produce you owe me. He's not giving up on that. There's a slight adjustment there. Amalei Abaya, so Abaya now has a question on Rava. So basically, Abaya asks on Rabbi Yosef, Abaya asks on Rava, and Abaya asks on Rava's second shot. Elameyata Katein Hani debate Bar Al Yashiv. Those that are from the family of the house of Al Yashiv, the Kapti, Afilaman the Chalaf Mitzvah, they start shouting. It's like dog like this. They start shouting. If you even walk by walk along the border, they start shouting. So do you want to say Achanami del Alta v'Chazaka? Do you want to say that if someone goes into the property of the Beit Bar Al Yashiv, that there should be a Chazaka immediately, because they would never let you stay there even for one moment without protesting? And the fact that they did means that they're giving up, or they're admitting that it's yours. If you say, okay, Beit Bar Al Yashiv is different. Over there, Chazaka only takes one moment. Where it says, that's the case. Then every property is going to have a different Chazaka, depending on how cantankerous the guy is that's in there. Rather, Rava says, Shata Kamaisa, first year he has another pshat. This is third pshat. The first year, Mr. Inish Bishtara, the person, the squatter. Maybe he's not a squatter, but Shimon's claiming he's a squatter. Ruvain will watch his document. Parti Bitlas Mizdar, the second and third year, he'll also watch his document. Fela Mizdar, after 3 years, he doesn't watch his documents anymore. So you can't have a claim against him. Where's your document? Now we're saying, well, what's a chazaka? A chazaka just means that you can't disprove this person's ownership by saying, where's your document? Because that's not a claim anymore. Amalei Abaya asks on Rava now on his third pshat. If there's a macha in front of, if that's not in front of the owner, it shouldn't be considered a macha. Let's say the guy's in Australia. If you would have told me that you're upset, that you don't want me in there, I would have guarded the document. But you never said it. You said it in front of witnesses, but you never told me. So Rava responds, Amalei, because the person will tell him back, because your friend has a friend and your friend's friend has a friend. So even though I didn't say it in front of you, but the fact that I announced it in the mikveh in front of 2 witnesses, that I wish this guy would get out of my property, and so everyone hears that. So you should have heard it also. We assume that you heard it, and you should have watched the document. Okay, let's leave it by Yomer Afuna. Actually, in the piece.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, should we learn tonight? You want to learn tonight to catch up? What are we, a page and a half behind?
Yeah.
2.5? So let's learn tonight. Let's learn tonight.
About
Approximately 9
approximately 9.
Approximately 9 o'clock, 8:50 or something.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.